What's up, everybody? Welcome back into the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. It's another practice report, and it is a big practice report. That is Tim May. This is Spencer Holbrook. Tim, for the first time since Student Appreciation Day in March, maybe April, I can't remember what exactly that was. Maybe it was beginning of April. We got to watch a full Ohio State practice, right? And they allowed the media in, opened the doors up. Big Ten bus day, I guess they call it, was here. The road trip show.
Big Ten Network. Yep.
Yeah, the Big Ten Network was here. And so if the Big Ten Network gets to watch, the local media gets to watch. And there was a lot to take out of all of it. Tim, we're going to dive right in because I don't want to waste any more time. What was your biggest takeaway as you watched the all-22, the 7-on-7s, the individual drills? You got to watch the full thing. What did you see?
I'm going to write a quick little story about it after we're done. I mean, for one thing, one takeaway was watching Cade Stover be athletic going down the field as a tight end, back to his roots. I think his Ohio State roots of being back at tight end, obviously, this year. He just jumped out a couple times to me. The other things that jumped out, of course, is there's I don't know if it's a revolving door at cornerback right now, but they've definitely got some physical problems there of guys dealing with some what they call soft tissue injuries, not the least of which was Jordan Hancock. I mean, walking very gingerly on his right leg, which I understand that's probably the one where his hamstring pulled or was strained. How long he'll be out remains to be seen. But what jumped out at me too, though, was just the energy of the offensive lines and the defensive lines when they were getting after each other.
Yep.
And you know me, man. To me, this always starts at the launching pads. On defense, it's the defensive line. On offense, it's the offensive line. And I kind of like what I saw. I'm going to write a little story about this too, about the coming forth of some depth there on that offensive line. I think Josh Fryer's getting back slowly but surely, getting back to some form there as a definite backup in one of the tackle spots. Enoch Vimahi has got to come on. I think he had some really good moments. A guy that also jumped out at me and just watching some one-on-one drills was like Toby Wilson, the son of Kevin Wilson. I mean, this guy can hold his own. And so those are just a few of the things. Obviously, the skill positions jump out at you. G. Scott lining up in one of the drills when they went to like full passing drills, he's out wide at one point. That's going to be no surprise to any defense that sees that. I mean, he's listed at tight end, but just making a play and just round down the line. And Jackson Smith-Njigba just seems to get better and better and smoother and smoother. Almost nonchalant out there, but that's not really the way he's playing. It just looks that way.
Well, I don't really know where to begin, Tim, because like I said, there's just
covered
so
the
much.
Waterfront for you.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you scraped off the top. We'll make sure to dive in now.
I didn't even mention the safeties. You can start there.
C.J. Stroud looked incredibly sharp. He missed one throw, I think, all day, and it was an interception by Ja'Kalen Johnson, which to anybody should be good news because Ohio State obviously needs cornerback depth there, and for J.K. Johnson to...
Yeah, but be truthful in advertising there, too. It's like the receiver didn't do what C.J. thought he was going to do. That doesn't mean that C.J. read it correctly, but it was like me throwing the ball to you.
Yeah, exactly. But if you throw the ball 60 times in a practice, one might get away from you. 59 for 60 is pretty good. C.J. Stroud looked incredibly sharp, as did Kyle McCord. I think Devin Brown's still getting his feet wet. Take care of the quarterbacks there. The wide receiver position, it's loaded. I don't think we need to really hash over that too much. The rotation looks kind of settled with the top four there.
Emeka Egbuka.
Yeah.
Remember the name.
But where I am going to really, really dive in here is along the defensive line. Tim, last year there was a lot of guys out there that you were trying to figure out if they could do it. I think now you've got a bunch of guys can do it, and then you've also got guys starting to rise up. I asked Ryan Day about Michael Hall, who took a red shirt last year, just took a developmental year, needed that to really get better. And then they're running the run-heavy defensive stuff. Court Williams is out there at linebacker, and you've got some bigger in-the-box safeties out there. And then you look in the middle, and it's not Tyleik Williams, it's not Jerron Cage, it's not Teron Vincent, it's Mike Hall in the middle. And what does that do for this defense if another defensive tackle can come on and give a Tyleik Williams or a Jerron Cage or a Teron Vincent a breather? What happens if he can also maybe get after the passer a little bit at that size with Tyleik Williams inside as well with the defensive ends? Mike Hall can be a game changer for this defensive line, and the more I looked out there today, the more he was on the field, not necessarily making the play, but helping other guys make the play. And I think that's half the battle for this defensive line. Those guys were not getting off blocks well enough last year, and it affected the linebackers. It impacted how the safeties were able to make tackles. And so that can be a complete game changer. And then you go to the outside, and I don't mean to ramble, but then you go to the outside, Jack Sawyer's rotating. Jack Sawyer is rotating. Javonte Jean-Baptiste is rotating. Zach Harrison's rotating, and then you look out there and JT Tuimoloau isn't really rotating. That guy is on the field.
JT Tuimoloau is getting after it.
Yeah, and I think he has a chance to be a serious problem for any offensive tackle or guard, whatever they want to do, trying to defend him this year, trying to block him and keep him out of the backfield this year. That's where my diagnosis of all of this starts, is up front on the defensive line. Those guys look like they're in for a great year.
That's where it always should start. If you're talking about a defense being moving up into the realm of really good to possibly great, really premature to call this great at the moment. Even Jim Knowles wouldn't do that. But his desires for them to be top 5 in the country, well, that's where it's going to start. When you look at Georgia last year, the way they got after it up front set the tone for everything else. When your linebackers are running around unfettered, getting to the ball, getting to the point of attack, it just makes you look that much better. You're right. I mean, I saw Mike Hall come off at least once, and need a little bit of attention, because they are getting after it out there, from a physical standpoint. But Jerron Cage and Theron Vincent, I mean, as Jim Knowles referred to him the other day, Jerron and Teron, might have been the other way around. It's got a good ring to it.
Yeah.
But boy, those guys that operate in the A gaps, man, if you can just get reliable, consistent push, force, presence in those areas of a defense, it makes everything else about your about your defense better. And so that's a good observation on your part.
Well, and then you go one layer behind them to those linebackers, and I think it's fairly obvious at this point. I think Jim Knowles was even able to just concede the fact Tommy Eichenberg and Steel Chambers are the 2 starting linebackers. I don't think there's any question anymore whether Cody Simon can work back into that starting lineup, whether, other guys, Taraja Mitchell. It's Eichenberg and it's Chambers. But behind those guys, today I was watching another former running back run with the 2s, Chip Trainum, and beating guys to the point of attack.
Yeah.
Getting to where he should be before the offensive lineman can block him, and he's shedding blocks and he's getting to a tackle. They weren't hitting today as much as maybe we would have hoped, but Chip Trainum is where he needs to be most of the time, and he gets there in a hurry.
Yeah.
And that's that running back kicking in, along with those defensive instincts from high school, along with just sheer athleticism and strength, because he's one of the strongest guys on that defense. He has a chance now to start to creep up into that conversation of a guy who could have an impact. And I just look around, like I said, and see a lot of guys on this defense that are just starting to get there. And you feel that, I'm not going to say top 10, top 5 like those guys are expecting, but you feel that improvement across the board kind of percolating right now. And you just see it happening in real time. Everybody's getting better. As the top, as you're only as good as your weakest link. Well, the weakest link is going from here to here, and that's moving the entire floor of this defense forward.
Yeah. A mobile floor. That's interesting. It's always, I think it's a minimum. We talked to Steel Chambers about this last year when he made the move. I think it's an advantage when you've been a running back and now all of a sudden you're playing linebacker. It's an advantage because you understand the blocking schemes because you've had to study them from the other side. You understand the point of focus on a particular play because you've been on the other side and understood it from that realm. And I think I agree with you on Chip Trainum. I think Chip Trainum is going to be one of those stories of the year, barring injury or anything else, who's going to continue to improve because he just now started playing linebacker again. And I don't know, just the sky's the limit there for him, in my opinion, because I think he's got the speed, he's got the physical look to him to be a linebacker, and the more he gets ingrained into what's going on there, it's going to be interesting. As we're watching today too, I mean, with that, as you mentioned, I mean, big concern has been the problems of keeping 2 cornerbacks on the field at the same time. I mean, Cam Brown has been coming off. I mean, whether he's still on a pitch count or not remains to be seen. I think everybody's projected Cam Brown and Denzel Burke as the 2 starters in this defense. And you see other guys, just Jansen Dunn had to come off the field, had a brace on a leg, and seek some help. We all know about, as we said, about Jordan Hancock and his pulled hammy, but that right now looks to be a little bit of the Achilles of this defense from the standpoint of just having healthy physical bodies out there on a continual basis, because in a game you're going to play a lot more than 3 plays in a row.
But then you
well, maybe not. They're 3 and out a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
But the bottom line is that's where if there was a concern point on this defense right now, it is the physical health of the cornerback room.
But that's where you kind of start to see a few reps here and there from Cam Martinez.
Cam Martinez, man, he's going to play. I've been calling his name for like 6 months now.
Whether that's in the slot at the nickel corner, whether that's outside, at corner, he will be on the field.
Wait a minute, I didn't think they played. I thought they played 2 corners and 3 safeties. I thought they had a nickel safety.
Yeah, but is that a nickel safety or a nickel corner when it's Cam Martinez? Because maybe he's just the nickel.
I'm playing with you a little bit because it basically is a nickel look, no matter what designation you give the player.
And I've been saying this the entire offseason until Jim Knowles lines his defense up against Notre Dame. I'm not ready to call anybody the adjuster, anybody the bandit, or anybody the nickel. I want to see how it operates. I want to see how it works, what these positions actually look like. You can take a lot from that Oklahoma State film, but I got news for you guys. Like, the Oklahoma State defense just wasn't near as talented as these guys are, and so Knowles might be able to change things up.
But they were in a league where the offenses get after it, and they ended up among the elite in the country.
So
it's about 11 guys playing together. The thing that would bug you about this defense is just looking at it on paper, just from the get-go, it is so reliant on everybody being, for want of another term, gap sound, meaning doing your responsibility on a play, because it occasionally looks like something can get out of the gate if one guy's out of position. Now, that goes with almost every defense, but you're just going to see this mature more and more, I think, as the year goes on.
And I think that's where the defense of Jim Knowles is a little similar to the defense that Jeff Hafley ran, where the defense in 2019 was very, very good. But if you look back, there was the opportunity to once a game, twice a game, to hit one of those 60, 70-yard plays against that defense, just because the way it was aggressive. Well, Jim Knowles' defense is just as aggressive, if not more aggressive, than what Hafley ran. And so you might see a 60 or 70-yard play given up by this defense every now and then, but they're going to happen far fewer than they've happened in the last couple of years because of the way that Knowles will attack you from his defense. And so I know a lot of the conversation.
Well, it's very reliant on messing with the quarterback and getting after the quarterback. It is very reliant on that. And but you got to stop the run before you get after the quarterback, so to speak. I think it looks pretty good. Like you said, he really likes the pressure that's coming from the inside right now with this group. Ryan Day hinted that he does too, and that's so huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know a lot of the focus is on the defense right now, but I mean, this is still the #1 offense in the country from last year, returning a lot of production. That first-team offensive line looks like it's getting better from last week, even when we saw it. Justin Fry, I mean, gosh, Tim, I can't say enough how much that guy just gets after it. The intensity that he coaches with is on another level, and I think that maybe is a little bit of his intensity and a little bit of what we had seen in the past from Ohio State offensive line. The
contrast.
It just wasn't nearly as intense, but now it is. They've turned up the pressure. The running backs look like they had a pretty productive practice, and not the sexiest position in practice when you don't want Travion Henderson getting hurt. You don't want Mayan Williams taking a lot of hits in the middle of August, as you want to be playing until January. And so there's not really, I hate to say it like this, there's just not really a lot to report on that offense. It's going to be really good. It's going to be really talented. And, the top 4 receivers, in my opinion, are now solidified with Emeka Egbuka, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Julian Fleming, and Marvin Harrison Jr. After that, though, might come the intrigue, because you can't just have 4 receivers. Something's got to happen where you need a 5th or a 6th guy. You need to know who that is.
Well, Jaden Ballard's in there still fighting for it. You're right on the line. And then another guy that, again, flashed today like he did in that student appreciation practice, like he did in the spring game, is Evan Pryor. You're going to see Evan Pryor on the field, I think, a lot more than maybe a lot of people think this year, because he has home run capability, and he showed that again today.
And then I would be not a true fan of one of my favorite guys on this offense right now if I didn't mention his name, but I saw a couple plays, and I know it was against the third team defense, and it was against some walk-ons and stuff, but I saw a couple catches that just aren't normal from Keon Grays, and I don't think that he's going to have an impact this year on that offense. Just tuck that name in.
But I like him, man.
Yeah, just that name is one to tuck away, because Chris Olave didn't have a big game until Michigan
could
freshman
it just
year.
be that when we get to watch these guys, that Keon Graves makes some plays, or is it he doing it all the time? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's Student Appreciation Day. He had a great catch down here in the corner. We're standing in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. Just you go, wow. I mean, like you said, you start naming names and then you leave out names, which you feel really, like when you start naming linebackers, you start leaving out linebackers. They're only going to play 2 at a time.
Yeah.
It looks like. So maybe get away with that with these wide receivers, like Ryan Day just told us. They're going to probably have a rotation early because, some of these guys have proven they deserve at least to be seen and have a shot. And that's what I'm curious about watching that Notre Dame game is how are they going to deploy? Like you said, who are those when they have 4 wides on the field? Who are those 4 wides going to be?
Yeah.
And Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be one of them. And you definitely know Jackson Smith and Jigba is going to be one of them. But then past that, what are they going to do? Emeka Egbuka deserves to play, in my opinion. Every time I've watched him, he's done something spectacular.
And you didn't even mention the Iron Buckeye, Julian Fleming, who
Exactly.
had the offseason that.
Well, you
warrants
mentioned him
playing
earlier. I'm just throwing his,
But and then you go on down the line, like you like to say, on down the line. Who's to say Caleb Brown can't be a punt returner? He's out there making plays. He's getting better. You can see that the progression. He's starting to figure things out. He came in the summer. If he was here in the spring, I think he might be the punt returner right now. He's got electric speed. He looks like he's really comfortable back there.
Yeah. But first thing a punt returner has to do is catch the ball. Jackson Smith and Jigba has as good a hands as anybody back there. So I would think he'd be the first guy back.
I would think so, but I don't know how often you want to risk the Biletnikoff favorite back there in the return game. But that's just me.
It's college football.
Yeah, and you've got to risk the injury. You've also got to risk, what things could happen in practice. We saw a full practice today, Tim. A lot of names to throw out, a lot of observations to be had, a lot of attention paid to the Ryan Day press conference, which we didn't even get to. But that's where we're going to wrap it up because we don't want to stand here all day. We'd rather get the content out to the people. So for Tim May, Spencer Holbrook from the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, this has been a practice report on Lettermen Row, where we cover the Buckeyes all year long. Make sure you check us out on the YouTube channel, subscribe to that. Come hang out with us on the Lettermen Lounge, the message board on lettermenrow.com, and we will see you back in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center next week.